Hi everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Amanda. I am a teacher turned homeschool mom, and this is Raising A to Z, a YouTube channel all about homeschooling. And today I'm going to talk about TPT. What is TPT? TPT is a new name for Teachers Pay Teachers. And I'm going to talk about it because this is where I get at least half, if not more, of my unit studies that I do with my kids every year. So last week I was talking about my math program, and I was talking about how whenever I post pictures or videos of my kids doing their homeschooling, especially Instagram, I get a lot of messages in my DMs about what curriculum are you using, where did you find this resource? So last week I talked about my math resource that we use, Math for Living Education. But this week I was going to share where I find over half of my unit studies, and that's at TPT. TPT is formerly known as Teachers Pay Teachers. And I think it is a great resource that a lot of homeschoolers underutilize. And I'm going to share why we love it, some cons to it, pros, all the good stuff, and how to navigate it and look through it a little bit because it has some tricks. You got to be ready. What is TPT? So TPT, like I said, is formerly Teachers Pay Teachers. And essentially it is a resource sharing website. It originally started as a way for teachers to share resources that they were creating in their own classrooms, and they could sell them to other teachers to use in their classrooms. And it has exploded. It is one of the biggest resource programs out there. And it is a great place to find stuff. Even if you're not a teacher, it's where I find a lot of my homeschool units because I'm basically taking a teacher unit and just doing it with my kids individually. There is so much on Teachers Pay Teachers. And especially if you're looking for more popular topics or more popular subjects, you're going to find a lot. So it's a great place to find like extra practice pages if your kids need help in math. It's a great place to find fun unit studies, which is where I get a lot of my unit studies from. I think it's a great resource. And so I want to talk about it a little bit today. Some of the pros to Teachers Pay Teachers is there is so much content because every seller, it's kind of similar to Etsy in the sense that there's a seller who like registers with the site and they can put up as many things and basically make a mini store on the platform. As a result, there is so much content. So some teachers do this as like a supplement for their own income. Sometimes they're just putting up stuff that they're using with their own class, but there's so much content that goes up because there are so many sellers. And so you can find so much stuff. Particularly if you're looking for more popular or more common things, it is a great place to find things like math worksheets, math unit studies. If you're looking for like a supplement in one area, there's going to be lots on like different novel studies or like character studies, book studies. You're going to find a lot of those, especially on very popular novels. You can find something that has been made for your kids there. And then it also has a lot of like science and social studies units. So if you're looking for things that tend to be more common, or if you're trying to stay kind of closely aligned with your local or provincial or state curriculum, so you're kind of sticking with their common topics, it's a great place to find those kinds of resources. Another great benefit is it's content that's being created by educators. It's a level of credibility to it. Like it's not just like random stuff being thrown together. Mostly people who have some kind of educational background, they're working in a classroom. So they're not just like throwing things together because it's easy. They're doing what is working for them in their classroom. So for the most part, you're finding some stuff that's really got a lot of meat to it. And it's really kind of these like great resources for like kind of doing deep dives. There's a lot of explanations in them. Sometimes there's like, depending on the kit that you're finding or like what you're printing off, sometimes there's like classroom decor, there's presentations, there's PowerPoint presentations, lessons that go with the books, or the printables. Like there's so much stuff depending on what kind of unit you find. They're so meaty because these are the teachers like, if I'm making the presentation to go with the worksheet, I might as well put it together and sell it to you. So they're making these really hefty, meaty things that are essentially made for other teachers to purchase it and not have to do any planning. You can take that, purchase it, and do very little planning as well. So depending on what you're looking for, you can find a lot of it there, and it's very credible and it's very meaty. There's lots to it, which I think is something that I look for when I'm looking for curriculum. The other thing that I love about Teachers Pay Teachers is it's very affordable. Because it is made by teachers and being sold to teachers, teachers don't always have a lot of money. particularly American teachers. And so the prices are really, really reasonable. I did a review on Gather Round, and I said one of the problems I had with Gather Round was the price point of being over $25 per kid. That's really expensive if you have 2 or 3 kids in your homeschooling. I have 2. That's almost $50 to print off curriculum for my kids. When I'm going on Teachers Pay Teachers, I'm finding curriculum for my kids for $5, $7, $10. And so it becomes much more affordable for the average family to access really high quality curriculum and really high quality options out there. And stuff goes on sale all the time. They often have not only site-wide sales, but sellers will have specific sales that go up. And so you can also search by free. Like you can search for free curriculum and free content, and you can get incredible stuff that teachers have put up just to like share. And so you can find lots of great free resources as well without having to go all the different places. The cons to Teachers Pay Teachers is you do have to do some searching. So it's not like a website where you can just like, hey, I'm looking for bugs and just get one option and print it off. You're going to have to go through and search what you're looking for to find what's going to work for you. I will give you some tips at the end of this video on how to search well and what you might want to consider when you are searching. But it is kind of something that you're probably going to have to like go in and do a little bit of a search, a little bit of work to find something that you're going to like and that is going to work well for you. So some people don't want to search. That's fine. I personally think that most homeschoolers like research, so that might be a pro. I don't know. Anyway, another con, which I don't always think is a con, but anyway, you're going to want to supplement. So typically, like let's say I'm printing off a unit study, which is primarily what I use it for. I print off a unit study. I'm going to want to supplement some things in there. I'm going to add more books. I'm going to add some videos. I'm going to maybe add a hands-on activity or two because that might not be included. But I'm probably going to like supplement with other resources outside of that unit. I kind of consider them as like the spine, and then I'm just adding things to them. To me, that's not always a bad thing. I kind of do that anyway, regardless of what I pick up. But for some people who are wanting to just like pick up one thing and not have to do anything, not have to look for a video, not have to find a book, like it's just, here's what I have and this is all it is, it might not be for you. Just saying. Like I said earlier, one of the cons is each seller is an individual. So it's not always comparable. Sometimes you're going to find someone who puts up something on like famous artists. It might look very different from someone else's famous artist. They might have different artists included. They might have different expectations. They might have very different worksheets. So they're going to be very different. They don't often link to other sellers that are selling similar things. So I know that's frustrating for some people when they're searching, is that they're like, oh, this is kind of close, but I want to see what else is out there. It's not always easy to find something from another seller once you've kind of found something. But again, it just goes back to being ready and willing to search. And then lastly, I do find that it is very, like I said earlier, about the popular topics. So you can find some really unique topics in there. Like I'm not discrediting that. But it does tend to focus on the very popular topics and on the topics that are required in most states or provinces. So things like ancient Egypt, lots on ancient Egypt because that's required at some level in most areas. There's going to be lots of math. There's going to be lots of habitat stuff. Great. Is there going to be a unit on fashion? Probably not, because fashion is not required in most areas. So teachers aren't going out of their way to make a unit on that. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these sellers are teachers themselves and they're building units based off of what they have to teach. So that is something to think of if you are looking at really popular topics. Great place to find them. Less popular, there might not be very many options. Just things to think about. I found some great resources on there, and now I'm going to give you some tips on how I find those great resources. I like to remind people that sites like Teachers Pay Teachers or TPT use it like a search engine. So make sure you're looking and using the right parameters and be willing to change those parameters a little bit. So there is on the side, there is a homeschool option where you can click homeschool and it will bring stuff up. I also recommend kind of going with the grade levels, not just homeschooled, because you'll get more options that way. Be ready to change kind of your keyword search as well. So if you're looking at like ponds, maybe that's what your unit's on. Maybe you want to look at like habitats or wetlands, different words like that to kind of generate more options for you. I also like to, well, when I do unit studies, I think this is something interesting because I know a lot of parents are saying, well, I want to pick one and do it with, 2 or 3 kids. I pick the middle kid and I kind of work from there. So the kids who are a little bit older, and this is what teachers do, by the way, this is what teachers do in the classroom. They pick kind of the middle point, and then the kids who are older or higher or more advanced, they expect more work and more out of them. So maybe better spelling, more sentences, more description, whatever. The middle kid is doing what's requested on the worksheet, and then the younger kids are doing kind of like less. So maybe instead of 3 sentences, they're doing 1. Maybe we're not worrying about spelling when they're doing their science work, things like that. That's kind of how I do it. I typically look for example, right now I have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. I kind of like look through the 1st and 2nd grade levels and pull something that's kind of at those levels, because you can search by grade level. And so I will kind of pull from that kind of age range and then just expect less from Zoe, or I scribe for her. That's something that I kind of recommend. Even if you're just doing it for 1 kid, or you're looking specifically for 1 unit for 1 kid or 1 worksheet for 1 kid, kind of go like up a grade and down a grade, because you never know, depending on where this person lives, maybe that's a topic that's covered in a grade higher, or maybe it's a topic covered in a grade lower. So think of that too. Like, so if your kids are struggling with a math concept in grade 5, kind of search for grade 4, 5, 6 kind of leveling, and you might find more resources that way. Another thing to look at is when you click on the actual item, it'll bring you up to it'll open a second window and bring you up to the item itself. Check those previews. A really good seller will have a really good preview, whether it is pictures, whether it is samples. Sometimes it's like a rough run through and you can kind of peruse and see what's included in that. So sometimes I've found units that are like, that I thought would be fantastic, and I did not check the preview, and it came out and I was just like a little lackluster once I downloaded it and paid for it already. And sometimes you find some like great resources. You're like, I can't believe all of this is included for $7. So definitely check your previews. And I always think that I tend to go for the bigger packages, just my personality, because I can always take stuff out. It's really hard to find the right things to add in sometimes. For example, last October, in October, I did a fantastic nocturnal animal unit, and I think I paid like $7 or $8 for it. It was phenomenal, but not only did it like have all like this sciencey kind of information about nocturnal animals and their adaptations and all of that, it had entire like literature studies. It had entire like reading activities to go with it. It had an entire math section that went with it. So you could literally just do all of that. So I ended up taking out a lot of the math and a lot of the literature stuff because I didn't need it at the time. But sometimes if you're looking, like, I would rather take those kind of like extra elements out than have to like, I need to add more worksheets because it only has 2 or 3. Those are the kinds of things you can see when you look through these previews. And so that is something you definitely want to make sure is you check the previews. Finally, I've said it before in this video, TPT is famous for their sales. A couple times a year, they do have site-wide sales where everything is like 25% off, or sometimes even better than that. And then the sellers themselves can have sales. So if there's a seller that you love, you can definitely sign up to follow them. But I tend to put things in my cart or on my wish list and then wait for a sale and then purchase a whole bunch of units at that time, which is something you can definitely do. You just have to make an account, which is free. Definitely look and wait for those sales if you're looking to save a couple extra bucks, because it is worth it. So yeah, I love TPT. The units that I purchased this year that I got from TPT, I did nocturnal animals. I did a nutrition one. We've done an artist one. And then I have habitats, electricity, and plants, and a Canadian one coming up in the next couple of months that I've already purchased. So really, out of the 9 units we're doing this year, I think the only ones that I didn't get from TPT were my Egyptians one, because I found a free one, which was fantastic, and fashion, because I couldn't find a fashion unit that did what I wanted to do. Otherwise, pretty much everything I got was from TPT, and I think my entire order for the year was under $50. So it was about $50, which, considering that's my curriculum for the entire year for both my kids, it was right on price point. So that's why I love TPT. It is definitely a place that if you are looking for kind of something to kickstart your learning, if you're looking for if you're stuck and you just want something kind of fun to throw in there, it's a great place to find unit studies. It's a great place to find novel studies, extra resources to practice things like math. Definitely a place to find all of those things, and it's all in one site. I'm going to start perusing TPT very soon because my kids have already given me what they want to learn next year. So yeah, I will definitely be going back to TPT very, very soon. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you subscribe and then click the bell. And if you want to see some of these units and worksheets in action, make sure that you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.